Welcome to your third online art class today, grade 4. Before I start, I'm going to share a Bible verse with you. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Now the reason I picked this Bible verse is because it doesn't matter what circumstances or situation you are in. Take a moment to think about praiseworthy and excellent things, because in every situation you are going to find some. So I challenge you this week to find something that's praiseworthy. Let's take a look at some of the work from the last 2 weeks. So we have Ethan Chan's picture from 4A. Now Ethan, I think you did a great job layering the different objects and the composition. It has some depth. That's really great. And I like the way you added some details onto the orange, the cups, and the wipes. Now what I would suggest with this particular picture is the wordings at the back, the wet wipes. So the wet wipes, the word's probably a little bit more curved. So if you were to do it again or doing something round, give yourself these round lines. Then you can write your letters along those round lines to give the illusion of a cylinder. Here we have Deborah. Now Deborah, you can see she included a picture of her actual still life as well as the picture itself. And you did a really great job with the layering of the objects as well as the different height. It gives a really nice variety of height and width to fill the space of your composition. Here we have Jacob. Now Jacob, you did a really great job in terms of putting the details on the box as well as the shadow of the orange that you made, which is what we will be doing this week. Here, I just wanted to point this out to you. He did a really great job with drawing some of the details of the croissants, which is great, and also the shape of the cups. You really looked at what you were drawing. Great job. Here we have Emmanuel's. Emmanuel's, you really did well with adding the details of the soup can. And that cup, we can really see that it's at the front. But if we look at the picture, now the cup is covering more of the soup cans. So I don't know, maybe you were sitting on a different angle and you see that composition a little bit differently. But based on what I see here, is that the cup should be covering more of the soup can. So, when you're taking a picture for comparison for us to see, make sure it's accurate. Otherwise, it's hard for us to see what is right. Okay. Here, Lucas, you did a really great job with the headphones, the cup, and the Rubik's Cube. That's really great. So what is needed in this picture is what we are going to learn today, which is the shadows of the object that you have. It will really bring out your artwork once that is added. Just like Audrey's here. Now Audrey's went beyond what I taught last time. She did a composition. She shaded all her fruits as well. She added different shadows to it, which is what we are going to do today. So Audrey, you did a great job. You went beyond what I taught and presented with this drawing. Oh, yes, yesterday, it was Tuesday, I had the opportunity to bump into all your homeroom teachers. And we were having lunch. See, Mr. Wong is eating I think it's charcoal bread sandwich. And he said to me, hey, you should get the student to draw food. I'm like, oh, that is such an excellent idea. So that is what we're doing today. So I am going to draw fruit. But before we start, I'm going to talk a little bit more about still life. Long, long, long ago, Cézanne in 1878 made still life. Actually, he drew a lot of still life. And this is one of his oil on canvas. He did apples. Apple is like artist's favorite thing to draw. Apple and oranges and bananas and grapes, because they only have one color usually, and they have a complex shape. So it really helps to study colors, study composition, proportion, as well as shading. So you can see the different type of things and shadows here. So the right underneath the pear, the darkest part are called the cast shadow, which we'll talk about a little bit here. So here, shadows, usually there's only three sections or three parts of shadows. So this is called, this first picture shows the light side, which is, if you look at an orange, is the side where it's closest to the light, is the lightest of the object. You can see usually halfway, and it's usually near the top, depending where you cast the light. So when you're doing your, when you're setting up your still life this time, make sure your light source is coming from one direction, usually on the side near the top. So don't do multiple lights, otherwise it'll be really hard to draw the shadow. So make sure there's one light source from one side high up. So here you can see the top part is the light side. Here we have the shadow side. So this, if it's a round orange, the top is light, the bottom portion, just like here, is generally darker. And also the cast shadow, which is just like your shadow. When you look down, you will see the dark part that follows you. That's the cast shadow. So when we are doing the composition today, we're going to focus on those three shadows. Oh yes, we're drawing food. So we have burgers, fries, or 2 burgers, fries, and some cheese sauce. Guess which restaurant it is from? Let's see. McDonald's? No. Burger King? No, there's only like one in Hong Kong now. Yes, Shake Shack. The burgers are a little too small for me, but that's okay. Try not to draw a burger is a little bit too complex. I just want to tell you that we're drawing food. We're going to draw something really simple. I have drew segments of orange, an apple or banana, like you saw that we talked about. So what we're learning to do, we are learning to add shadows to our still life. We're going to use that to create a 3-dimensional drawing. What I'm looking for, you are looking for a good light source for your still life. You're looking for 3 parts of shadows: light side, shadow side, and cast shadow, just like this orange. So you see, if you look at the orange, it's mostly orange with some green and brown. And the shadow is just color pencil. So I made a small demonstration for you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. We are going to be doing a quick Google Hangouts just to answer any questions that you might have. And we are switching to Google Classroom, so bear with me if I made any mistakes, if I invite you accidentally or not invite you accidentally. Please forgive me, but I'm trying new technology alongside with you so that all your work can be under Google Classroom instead of going to Seesaw. All right, well, have a great week. Happy drawing. See you. For this unit, you are going to need a piece of A4 paper. Mrs. Cam has been very nice. You're just going to fill in 1/2. So we're going to fold our paper in half. And you are going to pick your object. Now, it's very important what object you pick. Pick something with just one color, preferably not black, because black is very hard to draw from. So I picked a little orange. An apple will do, a banana will be great. Like the simple candy, just like the one that I had in the very first lesson with one color, that will be really great. Remember, we are focusing on the different shadows and the different tone with this particular still life. So simple color is great. Don't pick anything too complicated. Next, what you're going to do is you are going to pick the color pencils that you will need for this. So I have, obviously it's an orange, I will need orange. I have a little bit of brown at the top, so I pick brown. And I have a yellow here so I can lighten up the orange. And I also have green for the stem. And I have my pencil for the shadow. So this is what you're going to do. You are going to start off with, once you folded the paper in half, you're going to pick the main color to draw the outline. So I'm going to use my orange. Go away. if you look at my picture, you will see that there's some cast shadows. So make sure that you use a simple background, like a white plate or a piece of white paper, so you can see the cast shadow very clearly. So here we go. So I'm going to draw my orange. Now I'm going to draw it to the side because I want to save room for my shadow. So here's my orange. Now you see how I'm drawing very lightly, and if your shape is not perfect, it's okay. Now you have to look at your object very carefully and not touch it while you're not touching it. You are going to pay attention to see where the shadows are. In particular, you are going to look at the different types of shadow. Let's see if we can identify those shadow, okay? So we have side shadow. Can you see it? Can you see the shadow side? The light side? The light side is usually where the light is coming from. In this particular picture, it's coming from the left side. And also the cast shadow. That part is usually on the plate. So look at your fruit or your object and see where the lightest part is. The lightest part of it for me is right here. And then the shadow side is usually about here. And then the cast shadow is down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color it in. I want you to watch. I am going to use the side of my color pencil, which makes it really fast. It might leave a little streak. That's okay, because you're going to rotate your paper and you're going to go from it from another direction, which will ease some of the lines that you would see. Or you can try doing circle, but that's a little trickier because your circle or round could go out of the shape. So again, it depends on what you're trying to draw. So here we go. So I have my orange filled. Now remember I said this part here is the light side. This is the shadow side. So I'm looking at my orange. Even if it's just the shadow side, it's not the whole thing, but it's in sections. So I know that it's darker about here. So I'm gonna rub here a little bit harder to intensify the orange. Now also know that it's really dark around near the table, opposite the light side. I'm gonna go here. You see, I'm still using the side of my color pencil. Usually with the shadows, there isn't a solid line that divides it, unless it's a really, really bright light that you have shining against your object. So usually the shadow, it's sort of blended and it's not a really defined line. So here it is. And here's the lighter part. I'm just gonna slightly cover this. I'm gonna give it some yellow. Very lightly. Need to sharpen it. Now I'm gonna look at my orange again. I notice there's a stem and there's some brown marks up at the top. So I'm gonna take my brown color pencil and just okay, and then my green. Now, here I have the orange. I'm going to give it some outline. Now, when I do my outline, remember to move your wrist. Don't do a long stroke. If you need to practice, go to another piece of paper and practice doing the long stroke. Okay, so here we go. See, one stroke. Okay, you can turn your paper. Now, this part can be light, but the part where the cast shadow is going to be, make it really strong. And you can even blend in the color even more here. Get my other colors. There you go. There's my orange. This part needs to be a little darker. All right, so I have my light side, shadow side, and now finally the cast shadow, which is right here. And for this, I will be using my pencil. Whatever pencil you have, it's okay. So look at it. When I'm looking at my orange, I see this one part that's the darkest. You look at where it starts. Where does that oval on mine? Where does the oval start and where does it finish? So mine goes here. Just gonna lightly draw that. This is the darkest. And then you will have some extra down here, but they're very light. And there's some here that goes from here. That is very light. So it sort of overlaps. So now, again, you're gonna use the side of your pencil. Okay. Now the most important part is the part that's around the object. So the way to create a darker shadow is not by pressing harder necessary, but to go over the lines again and again, and that way it will deepen the color with more depth. So pressing harder is not the only way, but going over it and over it again, that's gonna do it. So you see how I have a pretty dark color now. It can be darker, but I'm not gonna make it too dark. You can't really, it's hard to go back if it's too dark. But if it's too light, you can always go back and add a little bit more. So now I'm gonna go work this part here, light part. Now, if you know the light's gonna disperse away, it's always a good idea to work from here all the way out so you can go from darker to light. And it gives a more natural finish instead of a line. It doesn't have to have a complete, doesn't have to have a line to say it's finished. It can be a jagged edge or like an unfinished look. So I'm gonna go lightly here, very lightly here. Now I look at this and I look at my orange, I'm like, this part needs to be darker. So I'm gonna go darker here. Now your shadow might be different than mine, especially if you have a light shining against your object. The shadow will be more prominent and more defined. Because I'm using natural sunlight in my room, so it's not as well defined. If we were in the classroom, I'll be using artificial light, using spotlight, so the shadow will be very clear. But at home, it does depend on what you have available to you. And that is done. This is what we have. Sign your name, Mrs. Cam, grade 4. Boom. Always sign your work because, you know, they will know who made it. That's it for today. Now, for those that have actually accomplished something like this from last class, you can choose to have two. So you can do two, one in front of another, and let's see where your cat's shadow is going to be this time. You know, how the shadow overlaps. Let's see if you can play with that. But minimum for everybody, I need to see this, a complete shaded object, and the cat shadow. The object needs to have light side, dark side. So that is what we're looking for. If you have any question, feel free to email me. Have a great weekend.